Making their debut in December of 2003, TVXQ was one of the trailblazers of the legendary second generation. Receiving the title of Kings of K-pop who revived the genre, TVXQ quickly became one of the most successful acts the Asian music scene has ever had, achieving an overwhelming amount of domestic and international success. With several iconic hits and over 14 million albums sold throughout their career, the group garnered a huge fan base, even entering the Guinness Book of World Records for having the largest official fan club in the whole world. Besides Korea, TVXQ found tremendous success in Japan, where they are known as tohoshinki. Till this day, they are the K-pop group with the biggest tour attendance in the history of the country, having already performed for 5,730,000 people. They also released dozens of #1 Japanese singles, so following this insane amount of success, of course, all the 5 members of TVXQ gained tons of popularity individually as well. In fact, some articles even claim that the top 3 most popular K-pop male group members of all time were all members of TVXQ. 2 of them really stand out for having not only impacted K-pop as TVXQ, but also on their own, JunSu and jaejoong. JunSu, who's also known by his original stage name Shia, was one of the most outstanding vocalists of TVXQ. During his period as a member of the group, he became one of South Korea's most praised and recognized voices. Besides being a composer, lyricist, and arranger, JunSu is also an amazing dancer, which makes him one of K-pop's original all-rounders. He was not only most possibly the most popular member of TVXQ, but also most possibly the most popular idol at the time, with his biggest competition being his groupmate Yuchan. Hero jaejoong, or just jaejoong, was also famous for being a great vocalist. He was the most popular member in Japan, and a huge part of his immense popularity, that by the way was not limited to only Japan, was due to his non-human looking and unique visual, style, and aura. jaejoong immediately became an unmistakable face, as the public hadn't seen any other idol that looked like him before. Aside from being one of the first idols to receive the title of visual shock, the term visho was created exclusively for jaejoong.
2日間連続で満員にするなど人気絶頂の韓国人グループtohoshinkiに解散の危機が報じられました。その原因は一体何だったのでしょうか。
In 2009, TVXQ was already consolidated as K-pop's biggest phenomenon of all time. On that same year, the group entered the Guinness Book for the second time for being the most photographed group in the world, with over 500 million pictures taken. But in July, an incident that changed the group's career forever made headlines all over Asia. After trying to talk the settlement out peacefully but being ignored by their company, smentertainment, the members Yuchan, JunSu, and jaejoong took the company to court, thus creating the biggest scandal in the history of K-pop until then. Through lawyers, the members claimed that the 13-year contract they were on was excessively long, that their schedules were held out without their confirmation and agreement, that the group's earnings were not fairly distributed, and that contract terms had been extended and changed without their knowledge or consent. As all the members were still minors when they joined SM, their parents were the ones who signed with the company. Some parents actually continued very involved in the group's business after the members turned 18. When TVXQ was ready to debut, all parents agreed and signed the initially 10-year contract, except for Yoonho's father, who just like many of his family members work with law. He believed that 10 years was too long and refused to sign the contract, which made SM pull Yoonho off the group. However, after JunSu and jaejoong fought the company's decision, Yoonho was added back to TVXQ and his father signed a 7-year contract instead. According to an employee of SM during a hearing in 2011, the company also wanted to take Yuchan out of the group before TVXQ's debut, but JunSu and jaejoong protested against the company's decision again, and Yuchan was able to debut. After the original signing, TVXQ's contract was changed 5 times from December of 2003 to February of 2009. Their contract period was extended from 10 years to 13 years, as SM wanted to market the group outside of Korea as well. So they estimated that they needed 3 years in South Korea, 7 years in Japan, and 3 years in China. The income division was slightly increased, but the clauses regarding the extended contract or compensation that were ruled by the courts as unlawful were not changed. SM was taking 50% of the profits, while TVXQ had to split the other 50% between the 5 members, pay for the entire cost of overseas promotions, for their travel fees and rent fees, meals, stylists, makeup artists, dancers, any other stage crew costs, the entire staff, and their managers' monthly wages. The members only earned money from their albums if it surpassed 50,000 sales. Otherwise, they would get no money. If the sales surpassed 200,000 copies, they only received 5% of total sales, and also had to split the amount between them. SM was taking all the earnings from the group's guest appearances on variety shows and broadcast publicity. Every right for TVXQ's songs belonged to SM, including copyrights for self-composed songs. They had the rights to release albums, the distribution rights, airing rights, performance rights, karaoke, right to create secondhand goods regarding any compositions, arrangements, or lyrics. They could give any artist under the company compositions of TVXQ without their consent, while TVXQ had to get permission from the agency to give any of their compositions or arrangements to a third party. SM only had two obligations, which were work to make TVXQ popular and inform them about their schedule as fast as possible. On the other hand, TVXQ had to follow all orders their manager were giving them. The group was not allowed to talk about the internal affairs of SM, make any promises or contracts regarding personal activities, and were considered responsible if there was a disruption in broadcasting or performance for personal reasons, make 2 full albums every year, release an album 6 months before the termination of their contract, and perform all activities diligently. If TVXQ was unable to perform normal activities due to a personal reason of time, the contract period would be extended by that amount of time. An early termination penalty of the members' contracts would make them have to pay triple amount of the promoted fees and cost them twice the profit that they were estimated to earn for SM in the rest of the contract period, even if both sides agreed to the termination of the contract. In response to claims of the members, SM Entertainment called a press conference and claimed that the lawsuit was motivated by the members' greed to pursue their cosmetics business uninhibited by the restrictions of their exclusive contract with the company. The cosmetic business in question was the brand Crebeau, which, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. The 3 members who attended the brand's launch event in China claimed to have made investments in it but were not running the brand, as they were accused of. The 2 other members of TVXQ, Yunho and Changmin, stated to the press that they believed everything started to change after the 3 members got involved with the cosmetics business, which they described as a cosmetics company with abnormal business practices. Yunho's and Changmin's fathers also released statements against Crebeau, apart from the one released by Yunho's father, Red. I first heard about the cosmetics business around February of 2009. Changmin's father and I had different opinion than the parents of 3 members, and we didn't understand why top Asian star TVXQ would do things like investing in a cosmetics company that nobody ever heard of and opening up stores without any discussion with the company. It wasn't like TVXQ was modeling for a cosmetics brand known worldwide, and we weren't even in a difficult situation. We also heard from others that the company used to be multi-level marketer, and the product's main ingredient was lamb's placenta. Because the business was run without any formal discussion with SM, and the cosmetics company itself had low reputation, we determined that the business could possibly damage TVXQ brand's value and its image both domestic and abroad. Those points were explained to my son, and because he had the same thoughts as mine, we told the parents of 3 that we won't participate in the cosmetics business in any way. SM claimed that Crebeau was the one who orchestrated the dispute between the company and 3 members. However, for insufficient evidence, the court ruled that Crebeau was not the responsible for the dispute, and the brand took legal action against SM for defamation. Later on, the lawsuit was dropped because, according to the investigation by the Korean DA, the 3 members and their families owned 62.5% share of the cosmetics company. So the DA determined that the cosmetics business was still an important cause for the contract dispute. In October, the 3 members were granted a temporary suspension of their contract until the actual lawsuit, so they were able to continue on with their activities without SM's interference. TVXQ's activities in South Korea were paused, but they continued to promote in Japan until the end of 2009. Following the breaking news of SM Entertainment's slave contracts, the company's stock price dropped over 10%. 120,000 fans filed a petition against the company's long-term contracts to the Seoul District Court, and also filed for compensation from SM for the canceled SM Town live concert, as the group and company initially stated that the concert would go on as planned, but was canceled a week before its scheduled date. A concert in Shenzhen was also canceled. In Japan, TVXQ were managed by the company AVEX. In April of 2010, They announced that the group's Japanese activities were also suspended indefinitely. During the same month, SM filed an injunction against the 3 members for damage compensation, but it was dismissed by the Seoul Central District Court in February of 2011. And the legal battles between the company and artists only came to an end on November 28th of 2012, with both parties mutually agreeing to withdraw their lawsuits. Thanks to this scandal, K-pop was never the same again, as companies can now legally only sign artists for 7 years maximum per contract. TVXQ became a duo that were not met with the same amount of success they had as 5. And Yuchan, Junsu, and jaejoong were blacklisted of the Korean entertainment industry, thus causing the erasure of not only their individual legacies, but also TVXQs, as a significant part of the newer generations of fans don't really know the group that once was K-pop's biggest force. After the withdrawal of the lawsuits, SM stated that the contracts of Yuchan, Junsu, and jaejoong came to an end on July 31st of 2009. In February of 2010, they signed a management contract with TVXQ's Japanese company since 2005, Avex Tracks. In April of 2010, it was announced that they would be debuting as a trio in Japan under the stage name JaeJoong and Rhythm Zone, a sub-label of Avex. The news stopped both K-pop and J-pop, and much anticipation was created around the trio's debut. When their first EP titled The came out in September, the results did not disappoint as the album debuted right at the #1 spot on the Oricon Albums chart, but this was literally only the beginning. In late 2010, JaeJoong entered the United States market with the release of their first album titled The Beginning, that served as their English-language global debut album. The Beginning had the song Hey Girl as its title track, which featured vocals of the American rappers Malik Yusuf and Kanye West, who also produced the track. In the spring of 2011, JaeJoong went on their first worldwide tour, and despite being blacklisted in South Korea, the trio released 2 #1 Korean albums, 3 top 10 singles, took first place in the Best Idol Star category in the 2011 Icon Award online voting conducted by KBS, won 2-day songs at the Korean Cultural Entertainment Awards, became the first ever idol group to receive a Prime Minister's commendation at the Korean Popular Culture and Arts Awards, were named the 13th most powerful celebrities in South Korea in 2012, and appeared on the list again the next year at the 25th position, performed at the 18th South Korean presidential inauguration ceremony, and at the 2014 Asian Games pre-opening ceremony. During the 4 years JaeJoong spent active, they sold over 1 million albums, millions of singles, and performed for immense crowds, even selling out Tokyo Dome 3 days in a row. But their activities were put on hold in 2015 following Jaejoong's military enlistment in March. In August, Yuchan also began his military service. He was discharged in August of 2017 and jaejoong in late 2016, 2 months before it was Junsu's turn. Junsu was discharged in November of 2018, completing the military services of JaeJoong and allowing them to make a comeback after almost 4 years. However, in April of 2019, the trio's then agency CGS ended Yuchan's contract as he got caught in a gigantic scandal after testing positive for drugs. It was announced that he would retire from the industry, but he remains active and was involved in other controversies that contributed to probably the biggest reputation downfall in the history of K-pop. As the same guy who once was South Korea's most popular male idol is now despised by a notable part of the public. So from now on, I'll not be mentioning him anymore, unless it's necessary to understand the story. The current status of JaeJoong is uncertain, as Junsu left the company in 2021. In 2022, he and jaejoong collaborated in an OST, but were not credited as JaeJoong. During that same year, the duo's profile was removed from the website of CGS, before jaejoong also left the company in April 18 of 2023. Although JaeJoong accomplished a lot during their years active, it wasn't easy at all. Rewinding back a little bit, when JaeJoong made their debut on September 8th of 2010, under the sub-label of Avex Rhythm Zone, they used a strategy that was still pretty much unseen within the Korean music industry. JaeJoong hired Warner Music Korea for album distribution and sales, a separate public relations firm called Prain and the management agency CGS. CGS was founded in December of 2009 by the producer Baek Chang-ju, solely to meet the management needs of JaeJoong's career in South Korea. JaeJoong were pioneers of this method of hiring different firms to be in charge of different tasks that usually are all done by only one company, which did not please their then current subsidiary company and longtime partner of SM, Avex. Only 8 days after the trio's debut, AVEX announced that after the conclusion of the remaining scheduled activities, the company would suspend all of JaeJoong's activities temporarily and declared its support to the 2 remaining members of TVXQ. AVEX expressed concern over the fact that the JaeJoong lawsuit with SM Entertainment was still yet to close and claimed issues with the president of CGS. AVEX declared that the father of CGS president holds a high position in the mafia, that he used his father's strength to blackmail artists, and served a term in prison under charges of duress. Following AVEX's contract suspension, JaeJoong were legally prevented from conducting any promotional activities in Japan without the company's permission, which made CGS start to independently managing the trio's business in the country and caused yet another legal battle dispute, as AVEX then fought for the rights to exclusively manage JaeJoong in Japan. In April of 2011, JaeJoong requested from the Tokyo Regional Court a provisional disposition against AVEX for their interference at keeping them from performing at a charity concert that was held to benefit victims of a tsunami and earthquake that happened in Japan during March of that same year. The contract suspension didn't stop AVEX from profiting out of the trio. They continued to release products of them, including 2 DVDs, but didn't allow any to compete on the Oricon charts, despite both having great sales. According to Oricon, AVEX's decision was made for revitalization of the market. In January of 2013, Tokyo District Court ruled against AVEX and ordered the company to compensate JaeJoong for interfering with their activities in Japan. AVEX filed for an appeal, and the battle between them and JaeJoong came to an end in February of 2014, with both parties agreeing to end the legal battle and not interfere with each other's activities. Following the withdrawal of the lawsuits, SM stated that both parties would mutually not interfere with each other's activities. But that's not really what happened. After the 3 members were granted a temporary injunction back in October of 2009 that prevented SM from interfering with their activities outside of the company, SM filed an objection days later claiming that the order was illegal. In April of 2010, the month of JaeJoong's announcement, SM filed a lawsuit against the trio to validate their contracts and filed a claim of damage, and in June, the trio submitted a lawsuit against the company to void their exclusive contracts. During this period, fans were waiting on news about TVXQ and its remaining members, but they only started to receive activities in August and had their first comeback as a duo the next year, as SM's main focus became destroying JaeJoong. 2 months after the trio's first album following AVEX's contract suspension, which was their global debut titled The Beginning, SM filed a lawsuit for a prohibition against the sales of the album in South Korea, and an exclusive contract suspension injunction against JaeJoong's contract with CGS, claiming that the members signed a contract with the company while their exclusive contract with SM was still in effect, and although the trio were granted a temporary injunction, their contract with SM had not ended yet, so signing with another company would be illegal. Following this, the Korean Federation of Pop Culture and Art Industry sent out letters to 26 broadcasting companies and various online album distribution sites, prohibiting JaeJoong from making appearances on shows and halting album sales. As I already explained, JaeJoong hired different firms to be in charge of different tasks, but that does not mean they signed an exclusive contract with them, so this was another failed and desperate attempt from SM to try to harm the trio. Still in the same month, the company withdrew the first half of the lawsuit, saying it was pointless since the album was already released. And in 2011, the Seoul Central District Court ruled in favor of JaeJoong and dismissed SM's objection against the trio's temporary injunction, as well as the injunction asking for the suspension of JaeJoong's contract with CGS. Later on 2011, the court decided that there was a possibility that SM would interfere with JaeJoong's future activities, so a judge decided to incur a fee against the company that would make them have to pay 20 million won every time they interfered with the trio's activities. Just days later, the Korean news program Lee Sang-ho's Palm News reported that the FTC, Korean Fair Trade Commission, has found SM guilty of interfering with JaeJoong's Korean activities for the past 2 years, and according to the show, the company would be fined for it. The FTC and SM Entertainment negotiated a fine, which is rumored to be around 100 million Korean won. The report was made by the journalist Lee Sang-ho, who followed the case for over a year, and interviewed Young Hae-in, who was an instrumental figure in minimizing SM Entertainment's contracts. The investigation was confirmed by the head of the FTC, and the report displayed proof of SM's interference with JaeJoong's Korean activities, such as the letters from the Korean Federation of Pop Culture and Art Industry to major broadcasting companies asking them to block JaeJoong from performing. The FTC made the association send a notice that it was ordered to correct the wrongdoings against the trio to the 26 broadcasting companies and other involved parties. In April of 2015, Assemblywoman Choi Min-hee proposed the JYJ law that prevents third parties, including broadcasting companies, from blacklisting artists from appearing on television. And after a first failed attempt, the law was passed by the National Assembly in November of that same year. To which CGS stated, "We've fought with the unfair conditions for 7 years, and we're thankful that we weren't alone in opposing it. We hope that with this amendment, these unjust actions will no longer occur in the entertainment industry." But none of that seems to have helped a lot. Activities of JYJ continued to be cancelled last minute without proper explanations. They never appeared on Korean music shows again, had very few appearances on variety shows, and weren't invited to award shows despite having millions of votes and sometimes even winning categories. The trio wasn't even allowed to perform at the official opening of the 2014 Asian Games, despite being their honorary ambassadors. Out of all members, Junsu is the most vocal regarding the blacklist. During his time in the military, he realized that the younger men didn't know he was under a blacklist and that people were forgetting about it, thinking he didn't appear on TV by choice. So after his discharge, he reminded the public by sharing his feelings on the topic a few more times and showed his gratitude to the programs that allowed his appearance.
그 내무반에서 이렇게 오늘 TV를 보고 있었어요. 보고 있는데 실명을 거명해 어떤 여배우와 어떤 개그맨들이 나와서 자기가 뭐 거의 한 10년 동안 블랙리스트에 있어서 방송 출연을 못하다가 이제 뭐 정권 교체가 돼서 방송을 하게 됐대요. 그러면서 막 그걸 보는데 너무 응원을 하고 싶은 거예요. 그랬구나. 나도 몰랐으니까. 근데 그거 아세요? 일반 분들은 대중은 몰라요. 제가 방송 출연을. 그러니까 안 하면 안 하는 걸로 알지. 반대로 그냥 제 대원들도 형이 방송 출연을 안 했어요? 이렇게 말더라고요. 혹은 형이 못했다고 생각 안 하고, 혹은 안 했다고 생각 안 하고, 했다고 생각을 해요. 혹은 그냥 형이 하기 싫어서 안 하는 줄 알아요. 나는 하고 싶어. 솔직히 뭐 다 하고 싶다는 건 아니지만 할 수 있는 상황은 아니야. 확실한 거. 근데 그렇게 알더라고요. 그래서 내가 그냥 하기 싫어서 안 한 줄 알았대요. 근데 그건 아니거든요. 적어도 뭐 다양한 예능에 나가서 내 얘기를 하고 싶은 순간이 물론 있으면 좋겠지만 뭐 그것까지는 바라진 않고 적어도 그냥 내가 노래를 냈을 때 그냥 뭐 한두 번이라도 그냥 내 노래를 방송 무대에서 노래하고 싶어요. 뭐 1등 바라지도 않아. 그냥 그거가 다른데 그게 참 어렵더라고요. 근데 이제 그런 방송을 보면서 진짜 어떻게 보면 나도 문학의 블랙리스트인데 나는 저런 기회가 올까? 라는 생각이 들면서 너무 그날 하염없이 눈물이 흘렀어요. 너무 울어가지고 답답하더라고. 그때 처음으로 그러니까 나도 이렇게 답답한데 우리 팬분들은 얼마나 답답할까. 그때도 예를 들어 제가 이제 뭐 연예인 축구단들끼리 대회를 하면 꼭 뭐 연예가 중계 그때 당시에 한밤의 TV 연예 촬영을 해. 그러고 이제 각자 뭐 그때 당시에 배우들 뭐 아이돌들 나도 근데 나는 심지어 방송 못 나가는 거 알고 있었으니까. 근데 이제 그 얘기를 해도 이건 나갈 수 있대. 그래서 해달래. 인터뷰 뭐 정성껏 하죠. 역시 안 나오고 저만 딱 커트. 노래를 부르는 건 더더욱 견제를 받았으니까 이건 팬분들도 잘 모를 거예요. 심지어 녹화를 했는데도 안 된 경우가 너무 많으니까 그때만 해도 포기할까 말까 막 고민을 많이 했었는데 그 방송을 기점으로 언제까지 이렇게 내가 두들겨 볼 수 있을지 모르겠지만 한번 그래도 가볼 수 있을 때까진 가보자라는 그런 마음을 먹었던 정말 될까 했는데 방송에 딱 나오는데 너무 고마웠죠.
감격스러워.
이 자리 빌어서 너무나 감사드립니다.
진짜
EBS 스페이스 공감.
When he was still a member, Yu-chan expressed his feelings on the 2011 track Untitled Song Part 1 that was created by him and explicitly addresses the history of TVXQ, being almost like a storytelling of the group's history, starting from their debut in 2003, leading to the group embarking into the overseas market, their golden years selling hundreds and thousands, winning every award and harvesting the fruits of their labor. As Yu-chan wrote, to things suddenly changing. Untitled Song Part 1 is an 8-minute track that features a lot of rap. So it has a lot of lyrics, some of the ones that stood out to me the most being, "Damn it, how could have all of the money we earned go towards paying expenses? What kind of expenses were there to make that much money vanish?" The number of questions I had increased as time passed. The headaches grew, the more our team members got together and discussed it. If I were to ask just one last thing, are the things we do for the company really and truly things that are for the company? One of the final verses of the track say, "Anyway, even though life is hard, we are working hard and doing well. We are trying to really smile, though we continue to be tormented. This effort of ours is not the effort of a mere product. It is the effort that is driven by the thought that we want to die without any regrets when we leave this earth." In case anyone wants to check out the full lyrics, which I recommend doing, the links of the translated versions I used will be on the description of the video. Aside from the blacklist and even more failed attempts to harm JaeJoong before the law, it's theorized that SM also orchestrated in Scandal that was heavily discussed and generated JaeJoong lots of hate in 2012 when the legal battle between the company and members was close to the end. During JaeJoong's passage through South America in March of 2012, media outlet Dispatch uploaded a video that contained audios from 2009, shortly after JaeJoong first sued SM, which led to them being kicked out of their dorm provided by the company and having their bodyguards taken away. To this day, it's not known who gave Dispatch the audios in which Jaejoong and Yuchan were heard cursing and hitting female fans after a night of drinking. The audio quickly gained huge traction and comprehensively caused shock among the public, even more following all the false and sensationalist reports that were made. But the so-called fans were actually yet another case of sasengs that JaeJoong were victims of. For the ones unfamiliar with the term, sasengs are basically stalker fans. And I say yet another because all current and former members of TVXQ have a long history of scary sasengs tormenting them and crossing all limits since the early days of their careers. One of them already broke into Jaejoong's room while he was sleeping during a leisurely break at a sauna, took a picture and spread it on the internet as if it was a trophy.
어느 날은 뭐 이제 딱 꿈에서 어떤 여자분과 뽀뽀를 하네.
꿈에서
꿈을 꿨어요.
안 돼.
뭔가 이게 꿈이 아닌 것 같아. 눈을 딱 떴는데 정말 그 까만색 천 안에 얼굴만 되는 것처럼 있는 느낌이 들어서 이거는 그래 맞다 꿈이다. 눈을 다시 감았어요. 근데
이상해.
촉감이 느껴지는 거야. 이걸 느끼기엔 너무 약간 꿈 같지 않은 거야. 그래서 눈을 다시 떴어. 보니까 여자분이 저는 하늘 보고 천장을 보고 누워 있었잖아요. 그분은 그 위에서 저를 내려보고 있었는데 이게 검은 머리가 다 쑥 내려와가지고
무서워.
피부밖에 안 보였던 거예요. 얼굴만. 저한테 옛날에 그 포토메일이라고 하죠. 지금 이제 사진이 딱 몇 장이 날라오는 거야. 거실, 방, 그리고 뭐 그 키친 사진이 딱 날라왔는데 내가 찍혀있는 사진이야. 근데 나한테 날라왔어. 집에 까치발로 들어와서 사진 찍고 나간 거야 그냥. 그리고 나한테 또 내 번호는 어떻게 알았는지 나한테 사진을 보낸 거야. 소름 돋잖아요. 그래서 그때 이제 그 현관문 열쇠를 다른 걸로 바꿨어요. 그리고 제가 이제 혼자 살게 되고 나서 이제 일인데, 야 이건 진짜 소름이야. 이사를 갔는데 그 저희 아파트랑 다른 아파트인데 건너편에 있는 아파트에 같은 층으로 이사를 가셔가지고 거기서 맨날 쳐다보고 계시는 거야. 이사를 가는 결정적인 이유가 하나 딱 생겼잖아. 새벽이야. 저는 이제 불을 다 끄고 자거든요. 근데 안전이 돼 있는 집인데 갑자기 밖에서 이제 벨 소리가 울리는 거야. 띵동 띵 울리는 거야. 이 시간에 누구지? 하고 밖에 이제 인터폰으로 딱 눌러봤는데 아무도 없어. 이상한데. 다시 들어갔어요. 또 울리는 거야. 또 봤어. 또 없는 거야. 약간 무섭기 시작했어. 그래서 이제 문을 이제 딱 열고 바깥에 딱 봤는데 문이 한 요만큼밖에 안 열리는, 한 30cm 정도밖에 안 열리는 거예요. 뭐지? 뭐야 왜 안 열리는 거야? 밑에 봤는데 사람 다리가 있어. 너무 소름이야. 그래서 문을 저도 약간 사람이니까 너무 시겁해가지고 문을 딱 닫았다. 근데 다시 딱 열었는데 없는 거야 또 그 사이에. 그래서 비상계단 쪽으로 가니까 누군가가 막 내려가는 소리가 들려. 전속력을 따라가서 딱 잡았어. 아니나 다를까 또 그런 분들인 거야. 그래서 이건 진짜 안 되겠다. 이건 정말 안 되겠다. 그래서 경찰을 불렀다? 근데 그 경찰 아저씨가 아유 뭐 팬인데 뭐 아니 팬이 좀 여기 올 수도 있지 뭐 그거 가지고 뭐 또 신고를 하고 뭐 아이고 근데 또 이게 며칠이 또 지났어. 갑자기 띵동 그러는 거야. 또 봤는데 없어. 띵동인데 이걸 몇 번 또 그 친구가 또 왔나 보다 해가지고 너무 스트레스 받았는데 밤에 또 새벽에 완전 이제 잠이 들었어. 이제는 띵동이 아니라 뭔지 알아? 문고리를 딱 잡고 막 흔드는 소리 있지? 막 이런 소리.
Following the jaejoong and Yuchan Saseng scandal, a press conference had to be held in Chile on March 8th, where JYJ opened up about the controversy and the abuse they were enduring for several years. Junsu stated, "I endured the pain because Saseng fans are still fans. However, they used our identification to expose our private phone calls and GPS trackers were put on our cars. There were incidents of breaking and entering where a fan would take pictures of our private items. Some fans would try to kiss me while I was asleep, and some fans tried to collide with our car in a taxi to see us in person. Our lives began to crumble as we would always be recorded, touched, and derided. We asked to be allowed at least a bare minimum of living as a human being, while we endure this indescribable pain." Jaejoong apologized to the fans for the incident and expressed, "We want to give an apology for our unjust behavior in the past. We are sorry because of all the fans that worry for us and share our pain. In the future, we will think about the people that love us as public figures whenever we are in mentally difficult situations. We will think about the responsibility we have and never break down." In August, the trio sued Dispatch for 100 million Korean won for defamation of character. In 2021, Jaejoong said that after 12 years, Saseng attacks had finally stopped. But in January of 2024, he posted on his Instagram stories a confrontation he had with a taxi driver who was driving Sasengs to stalk him, as well as a message expressing his frustration on the situation. The stalking that Jaejoong has been suffering for the past 2 decades inspired the track Don't from his latest album, Flower Garden. Following the end of the JYJ versus SM lawsuit in November of 2012, JunSu opened up about the situation and stated to reporters, "I regret that I cannot greet you as TVXQ at a time when the lawsuit regarding the exclusive contract with SM Entertainment, which lasted for 3 years and 4 months, has ended. If I can stand on stage again with the name TVXQ, I think there will be nothing more refreshing and happy than that. We were fighting a battle against our company and their unlawful practices. It wasn't that we wanted to throw away our title of TVXQ or leave the group." These words of JunSu resonate with ones from an interview JYJ gave when the lawsuit had started back in 2009, in which they stated that the whole cosmetic issue had nothing to do with the suspension of the exclusive contract, as TVXQ is more important than a cosmetic company, that they pulled out of the cosmetic company to avoid controversy, and that having TVXQ continue together was the most important goal. As we all know, the group did not continue with the 5 members. But as I briefly mentioned earlier, the whole lawsuit scandal led to a thorough government investigation into K-pop companies and its contracts, and led to the abolishment of slave contracts, as well as to the consolidation of the standard 7-year contracts we know today. So aside from earning their own freedom, JYJ unwittingly helped all Korean idols. After launching their own individual companies each, both JunSu and Jaejoong had comebacks in June of this year.
저희 회사도 뭐 오실 때도 편하게 오셨지만 혹시나 뭐 그냥 혼자 한번 해보고 싶다는 거 나가고 싶으시면 언제든지 좋은 게 좋은 거잖아요. 저 또한 그것 때문에 힘들어서 나온 사람이라 나가고 싶으면 언제든지 저도 약간 이런 마인드입니다. 정말.
Last year, while celebrating his 20th anniversary since debut, Jaejoong appeared on the 3 major broadcast stations of South Korea for the first time after a whole decade. And believe it or not, SM Entertainment sent a flower wreath to his company. This year, JunSu made one of his first variety show appearances on terrestrial TV since the ban, so all of that made the public believe that the blacklist was finally over after so much time. But apparently it just got a little better now, because despite being on promotion period as we speak, none of them performed at any music show or music-related program. Since they had their music careers boycotted, JunSu and Jaejoong crossed over various areas of entertainment, in which SM couldn't interfere as they have no power over industries aside from the music industry. So they were able to continue thriving despite all the hardships. And I believe that thriving despite all hardships became a part of their legacies that deserve to be more remembered, as these are two of the most impactful idols the Asian music scene has ever witnessed. Junsu debuted as a soloist in 2010 and already released several successful projects in both South Korea and Japan, standing out from every other male soloist for being a chameleon who masters any and every concept and who's never afraid of expressing himself through his art. It doesn't seem to exist a lot of things that Junsu doesn't know how to do, from acting to composing, writing, and arranging. Another thing that separates him from most idols is the fact that he's a renowned musical actor. He started his career in musical theater in 2010 with the lead role of Mozart, and since then he graduated in musical theater performance and starred in several musicals that earned him dozens of the most prestigious awards of the industry, as well as the title of Ticket Power for being able to sell out within minutes all tickets for his musicals and solo concerts. JunSu was named the #1 celebrity with the most drawing power for 2012 in South Korea at the Golden Ticket Awards, and established himself as one of the greatest examples of idols succeeding in musicals and taking away the stigma around it, showing that they can be musical actors and be taken seriously.
준수가 본인 입으로 좀 얘기하기가 좀 뭐할 것 같아가지고 좀 얘기를 해주자면 준수가 시장을 좀 많이 바꿔놨어요. 뮤지컬 업계를 많이 바꿔놨어. 그래서 되게 많은 새로운 뮤지컬 관객들도 유입이 됐고.
네, 그렇게 얘기해 주신다면 감사하죠.
난 큰 영향이라고 생각해, 정말로.
In May 4th of that same year, the website Sonara experienced a server crash. After the pre-order for his first Korean album titled Tarantalegra was opened, just by the end of the month, 122,000 copies of the album had already been sold. In 2022, JunSu proved he didn't lose nothing as an idol when he won the survival show Double Trouble alongside Hyolan. The show was very iconic for older stans because it showed who many believe is the biggest male and female AC from the second generation of K-pop on the same stage. Following JunSu's immense talent and popularity, he became a legend and one of the most influential idols in the history, as an impressive amount of idols that came after has him as their role model.
선배님을 좀 많이 좋아해서 좀 연습을 하다 보니까 그렇게 따라가게 되더라고요.
영혼을 담아서 노래를 해야 된다. 그러니까 뭔가 그 정말 열창, 그 노래를 너무 좋아하는 게 정말 시청자 입장으로 봤을 때 정말 사랑해 보이고 그렇게 영혼을 담아서 열창을 하고 그런 시아준수 형한테 좀 동생으로서 어떤 좀 매력을 느낀 것 같고 사실은 좀 말도 많이 걸어보려고도 노력하고 하려고 했는데 되게
너무 고마워요. 너무 감사해요. 진짜 제가 이 자리에 있는 게 진짜 저는 왜냐면 하지 마. 진짜 저는 왜냐면 안 그랬으면 가수를 진짜 꿈을 못 꿨을 거예요.
Speculated to be the richest K-pop idol thanks to business outside of entertainment, jaejoong has also done a lot of different things throughout his career. He was the first idol to publish a cookbook, hosted the show jaejoong and Friends, was the executive director of the Asian leg of JYJ's first world tour, was a part of the directing team for LG Wyson Rhythmic All-Stars, helped launching the Korean fashion brand Molder, and continued to release music. Jaejoong's career is also divided between South Korea and Japan. Although his South Korean musical projects had good commercial performances, he was met with more success in Japan, where he was able to maintain himself as one of the top idols, having already topped the Oricon singles chart 3 times and being awarded at the Japan Record Awards, which is considered the Japanese equivalent of the American Grammys. Regarding his acting career, he was met with more success in South Korea, starring in various popular dramas and movies and being awarded at several prestigious ceremonies. Going beyond the required skills for idols, jaejoong is a songwriter, arranger, lyricist, and composer. He knows how to play piano and also influenced several younger idols for being so talented and for his visuals. Jaejoong is undoubtedly the most impactful male visual in the history of K-pop, playing a huge part on the officialization and establishment of the position in idol groups, setting trends that are up till this day, going viral for his visuals before the word was commonly used and even during his military period. Remember what I said earlier? That before Jaejoong's debut, the public had never seen anyone that looked like him before? Well, in more recent years, SM was accused of trying to replicate Jaejoong's visual a few times. Especially with Wonbin of RISE and Taeyong of NCT, jaejoong himself thinks that they all look alike, and a part of the public also believes that there's a similarity between him and other younger idols from SM and from other companies as well. If it's just a weird coincidence, we don't know. But that jaejoong is the blueprint for male visuals in K-pop is a fact. Although it's very sad that idols who played a necessary part on shaping and expanding K-pop are not treated as such, they're still active doing what they love and fought to do freely. So at the end of the day, it was all worth it. If you want to support their latest comebacks, the links will be in the video description.